Hey guys, what is up? Synthetic Programming here with another video for you guys today. Today we're doing lesson 8 of our Learn Python series from beginner to expert. And lesson 8 is on while loops. While loops are amazing in programming, they're really useful, and so I'm going to teach you about those today. They're a little bit different than for loops. So if you remember, for loops increment over a range or like a list. So for loops help us go through something and look at every single thing in that list and do something with it, or go through a range and do something with every single number in that range. But while loops are a little bit different. While loops can just go on forever until a condition is met that breaks them. And so I'll give you an example of that today. So what we're going to do is we're going to say there's a number I, and I equals 0. While I is less than 1,000, we're going to print, actually let's say while I is less than 15. We're going to print I, and then we're going to print we'll print this number is less than 15. So what'll happen is, if we do this, it'll go on forever. This is called an infinite loop, because while I is less than 15, it's just going to keep printing this out. And I'll show you for a second, but then I'm going to turn it off because I don't want it to crash my computer. So see this? Okay, so I just stopped it. But did you see? It says this number 0 is less than 15, and it just goes on forever. You don't want to do this in your program. It'll absolutely crash your computer. But we can do this. Under here, we're going to say I plus equals 1. If you guys remember, in our first or second tutorial, I think this might have been the second tutorial, or the third. Yeah, it was the third. Basic assignment operators. So in that one, we decided that if you take a variable and type plus equals 1, it sets that variable equal to that variable itself plus 1. And so what we're going to do now is, while I is less than 15, print it and say this number is less than 15. But then, after you do that, take I and raise it by 1. Because you can see I wasn't changing here, which is we set it to 0 and it stayed at 0. But now we're going to change it. We're going to change I by adding 1 to it every time it goes through the loop. And so after it goes through the loop 15 times, then I will be the same as 15, and it won't continue, it'll stop. And so we can show it stopping here by saying print finally it's 15, like this. So if we run this, you'll see it says, so it started and it said 0, this number is less than 15. 1, this number is less than 15. 2, 3, 4, all these numbers are less than 15. But then it got to 14 and said this number is less than 15, and then it said finally it's 15. Because every time we went through the loop, we added 1, and finally it met the condition. Now this might seem like a really weird way to do something that, it seems like it shouldn't be. How is that useful, right? And it's useful in a lot of ways, but one of the ways it's useful is something like this. We're going to use while loops to guess a number. So we're going to say we have a number, and we're going to call it A. And A, actually we can call it our number. Okay, so our number is going to be equal to 45. Okay, so our number is equal to 45. Now, up here, we're going to import something. And we're going to learn about imports later, but I'm just using this for the purposes of this tutorial. We're going to from random import randint. And what that does is it lets me use a function that's not included in the general Python, and the function is this. Randint. And randint gives you a number between the range that you give it, like a random number. So if I say 0 to 100, and I say print randint 0 to 100 like this, and then I run it, See how it says 78, and then if I run it again, it says 48 and 5 and 49, and okay, so it gives us random numbers between 0 and 100. So we're going to use that for the purposes of this. So now we need a while loop. So while up here we need to do one more thing. We're going to say guess equals randint 0 to 100. So while while our number does not equal the guess, so while this number that we chose doesn't equal the random number, we're going to set the guess equal to a new random number, 0 to 100. And then we're going to print, before we do that even, we'll print wrong guess. And then after it's done, we'll print finally, I guessed it. Like that. So now, when we run this, it's going to say our number is 45. It's going to come up with a guess. That's a random number between 0 and 100. While the number that we chose is not equal to their guess, it's going to say wrong guess, and then it's going to guess again by setting guess equal to a new random number. And when it guesses it, it'll say, I finally guessed it, down here. So let's run that and see how long it takes. See that? So it says wrong guess, wrong guess, wrong guess all the way, and then it says finally, I guessed it. Now, that's a lot of text. So let's take this out, and we're going to add another variable. We're going to say guesses, which is the number of guesses, starts out as 0. Actually, it starts out at 1, because our first guess is a number. So we have guesses equals 1. So now we're going to say guesses plus equals 1, because every time it makes a new guess, we want it to add 1 to guesses. So guesses is going to keep getting bigger as more and more guesses happen. So now, down here, finally, I guessed it, and then print the number of guesses, which is just guesses. And then under that, we'll say print it took me that many times. Like that. I know we could write this on one line, and there's other ways we can mess with this to make it look better, but this is just for the purposes of this. We'll make it easy. So when I run this, what's going to happen is, we'll just go over it one more time. We set a number equal to 45. Then it's going to make a guess, and it's its first guess, so we set guess is equal to 1. And while the number does not equal guess, it adds 1 to guesses, it makes a whole new guess, and then when it finally guesses it, it says, finally I guessed it, it tells you the amount of times it guessed, and then it says it took me that many times, and it points up. So we'll run it, and see it says, finally I guessed it, 23. It took me that many times, so it took 23 times to guess it. This time it took 251. That time it took 162, so it's not that good at guessing. What would happen if we made it between 0 and 1,000, and we made this number 427? How long will that take? Well, I'll run it and we'll see. Finally, I guessed it. It took that many times, 769. That time it took 4,000 almost, 3,831. So now you guys see how you can use while loops to do things like guessing a number, something that takes many, many steps, and then you have clever ways in here of keeping tracks of how many steps you took by storing that in a variable. So I hope this helped you guys with while loops. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. I love answering questions and I love helping you guys out. Thank you guys so much for watching. The next tutorial, lesson 9, is going to be a really good one, and I hope you guys join me for that one. I'm going to put the link up right here where you can click it and go see that. It'll be really good. And like I usually say, thank you guys for watching. Peace.